Hey guys, welcome to another CreditVerse video. In a lot of our videos, we talk about all these amazing experiences you can get with credit card points, like Singapore Airlines Business Class, Emirates First in Business, and of course, Air Canada Signature Class. But we don't actually tell you how to book them. So in today's video, we're going to actually do just that. I'm trying to book a trip to Germany next year, and I thought I'd bring you guys along. Now, to keep it really simple, I'm going to stick with Air Canada and their partners, and I also haven't done any pre-screening before this, so we're going to find out at the same time. Although we did try to record this video about a week ago, but one of the tools was down, so we had to re-record it again. There's also a little bit of lingo here and there, but I'm going to try to simplify it and make it as easy as possible, and with that, let's get started. First, let's start with the route I want to book. I want to go from somewhere on the east coast of North America to Frankfurt, Germany in February next year. Now, if you're following along and watching this video around the time it comes out, it's about the end of March, which is kind of the first tip about booking award availability. You want to book as far out as physically possible. Now, the limits are usually between 355 and 360 days. This is really just when you want to book all those partner award seats that we're going to talk about, as those get booked up really quickly. Now, if you can't book that far out, being flexible with the cities you're wanting to depart from is also pretty nice. In my case, I want to go from somewhere on the East Coast, not really a specific city, as I know that it's maybe like a 1 or 2 hour hop to places like Chicago or Boston from where I currently reside. I would suggest taking a repositioning flight, so that 1 hour hop to one of these cities that tend to have a few more award seats so you can get the best value out of your points. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about how to actually book these tickets. There's two ways. First is the old-fashioned way. You go from all the dates you're willing to fly from every single city one by one, and this takes ages and ages. I used to do this for quite some time, then I realized that this just wasn't the most effective way to find the best seats. Now, the second way, and in my opinion the much better way, is what I'm going to teach you guys how to use today. It's a website called cowtool.com, and while it looks really unassuming, like something out of the 90s, it's by far one of the most powerful ways to search for award availability on Air Canada and some of their partners. So now this is where it gets fun. You're going to click Air Canada Award Searcher, and once you're at this page, you're going to find out all the origins and the destinations. So the first thing you want to do is think of all the airports you want to fly from. Now, I said I'd go from anywhere on the East Coast, but I prefer somewhere in Canada just because it saved me to go through customs once, and it's also just a little bit more simple. So I'm going to click YYZ, which is Toronto, and also YUL, which is Montreal. I could also click places like, Ottawa, but I don't really think there's going to be much award availability as there are no real direct flights from there to Frankfurt. And for destinations, I'm just going to click Frankfurt because that's the only place I really want to go. And I don't really want to reposition somewhere in Europe just because that's going to just make it much more complicated. And I know that I'd probably be able to find award seats if I'm booking so far in advance just directly to Frankfurt. In terms of dates, I'm going to go sometime in February, so I'm going to put 2024. And then let's call it the 19th, if I know how to type. And then you can put a colon to separate the ranges you can fly from. So I'm willing to go from somewhere on the 19th to the 21st or the 22nd, just because I have a couple of days and I can just really take advantage of, booking so far in advance. 21, and then now we're all over to stopovers. So stopovers are actually one of the most unique features about booking an Air Canada reward seat. You can book a stopover for 5,000 points and you can spend some time in a new place without really having to pay a lot of extra money to just take a stopover there and get the same solid price for your full itinerary, like 65,000 points from here to, let's call it, Frankfurt. I don't really want to do this as I'm still a little bit time constrained on the back end, so I'm just going to click no stopover. And now I'm just going to click search for flights, and it's going to usually take a couple of minutes to find some place to go. Okay, now this is shown up, you also want to start using some of these filters. So I prefer flying in business class, just because I'm booking so far out, I think there's going to be some space for a pretty reasonable price ticket. And this is where it kind of comes up. So you can go with Air Canada and United. This is actually mixed cabin. I would like to avoid this, if possible. So we're going to knock out the mixed cabin percentage to, maybe let's call it 70%, because I'm willing to take the first leg in economy class because it's only an hour or two to reposition if I have to. But I'd really like the longer leg to be in business class, especially if I'm paying such a high price. Now this is where the high prices come in. If you look over here, the most direct routing, I guess this is not super direct, going from Montreal to Calgary and then Calgary to Frankfurt, is 499,000 Aeroplan points. This is incredibly substantial, and I think it's much more expensive than booking one with a partner. This is because Air Canada uses dynamic pricing for their own flights, meaning every single seat is bookable with points, but as more people buy them, the price for them gets higher and higher. This is where you want to focus more on, getting a partner seat. So the next one we actually look at is a pretty solid flight. It's from Toronto to EWR, and then JFK to Frankfurt. So EWR is about 25 minutes away from JFK. There's a tram that goes between the two, I believe, and also some other shuttle services. Worst case scenario, you can really just take an Uber between the two. Now, if you look here, this is for 97,400 points, which is a hell of a lot less than 489,000. I'm just going to do some more searching here, and then we'll get back to it together. So I'm going to actually sort by price now, just because I want to find the cheapest price possible for the best seats. I also would prefer to avoid things like Austrian Airlines and LOT and TAP Portugal, just because they don't have the newest planes and the prices are generally pretty similar, so I might as well get a better product if I'm able to for the same value. So you can do that by just going to the must not have airlines. You can click TAP, you can click, I believe this is Austrian, click 4OI, which is Discover, and the other ones seem to be fine. Now, if you'll notice here, a lot of these are Singapore Airlines flights, and you'll notice that none of the destinations here are in Singapore. This is because Singapore Airlines operates a fifth Freedom flight from JFK all the way to Singapore, but it takes a stopover in Frankfurt to pick up passengers or drop off passengers, and in my case, I can just book that leg specifically and not continue on to Singapore and get one of the best business class experiences in the world for, a fraction of the price I would otherwise. Now, in my case, it's looking to be about 95,000 points, but I feel like a 10-hour connection is just a little bit too much if I have so many other options. Also, I believe I mentioned earlier that there was a shuttle between EWR and JFK. I don't believe that's true, and it definitely takes more than 25 minutes. I mixed it up with like LaGuardia, which is actually genuinely about 20 minutes away. So if you're booking EWR, you might want like a maybe 6 or 7 hour connection just to account for, a lot of that traffic in New York City, as well as flight delays, especially if you're booking sometime in like February or in the winter. So I'm going to prefer picking something from LaGuardia just because, a 5-hour connection should be more than enough. And I do quite like these two flights. They're pretty similar. This one goes to EWR, so I would probably prefer this one. This one has a 3-hour and 16-minute layover, which might be a little bit tight considering I'd have to do immigration twice. And by doing it this way, I wasn't really able to avoid the immigration in the US just because the best flights come to be from Singapore Airlines, and that flies from JFK, which is just fine. So let's say I want to pick this flight. This looks to be okay. I'd prefer something YYZ. If possible, it just gets a little bit closer. So let's see that. It is an extra 2,500 points, but I feel like that's something I can kind of suck up. So this flight looks to be pretty good. It's on the 19th, which is the Monday, for 97,400 points, which is actually pretty solid. So I'm just going to click aircanada.com, open this in a new tab, and we can book this together. Now you'll notice that this entire itinerary is in business class, which means you're paying, the extra business class rate to go from Toronto to New York. And I don't really know if that's the best value, but you do get some protections having on the same itinerary versus having on two separate ones. Now, in my case, I might end up just booking it directly from JFK and flying into LaGuardia for about 7,500 points or 5,000 points or whatever the case is. But if you want to keep it super, super simple, make sure you have all those protections for having a connecting itinerary, then I would just, suck up a little bit more, maybe pay an extra 10,000 odd points, so $200 odd, and just take this flight instead. I also believe I might get a slight discount on this just because I do have preferred pricing with my American Express Aeroplan card. So I would probably suggest picking that up because it might just save you about $100, $200 just on one flight, where we're going to see just now. It is usually a little bit less on partner flights, so you don't really know, but we're just waiting right now. Now you'll notice that I don't actually have enough points to book this right now, just because I have only 14,000 points left in my account. But I can just transfer some over from my American Express account into this account, and the transfer is instant, which is quite nice. So I'm going to go through the rest of this booking process, but I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. And if you guys have any questions about how to book award availability, kind of when the best times are to do it, or for any other tips, just let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next week. Take care.